Hello, everyone. This is the Film Obsessed Couple. I am Shelley.
And I'm Scott.
And we are here today to talk about My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah, another kind of emergency episode, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it was requested, so we're going to do it. Well, I mean, this particular movie was not requested, but either...
Recommended.
Yeah, a Ghibli or she recommended a different type as well, but...
White Fang or something? No, White Snake.
White Snake, yeah. But we went with Ghibli.
We watched White Snake, but it was like the music video was only a few minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
That lady dancing on top of the cars, you know?
Yeah.
Here I go again on my own. Like, are you sure this is what she recommended?
She wants us to do this one?
This is going to be a very short episode.
I don't know. All it is some lady dancing on this nice car.
Yeah, and then it would be awkward because that lady died not too long ago. So it'd be like, what can we say?
So sad. But yeah, not that White Snake.
An anime White Snake.
Yeah, there's actually an anime White Snake.
Yes, it's the animated version of that music video.
No, it's not. But you know what? This movie, it starts out, and I really forgot how long openings were.
Yes.
I don't know when they changed it from putting it at the beginning and then putting it at the end. But this one was made in 1988.
Good year.
Yep. I only remember that because it is such a good year. The intro was just so long, and the song, it just went on forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean to open up this whole thing going, oh my gosh, but oh my gosh.
So I've found out that, yes, movies back in the day used to have really long credits at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Credits, yeah, openings is what I called it.
Well, it is. So I don't know if this was the first instance, but I know Star Wars... You know, George Lucas doesn't want the credits. He just wanted it to go, boom, the big crawl, Star Wars, you're in it.
Right.
And the director, or the Directors Guild, or whatever, Motion Picture Academy, whatever it is, had a big problem with that. They were like, well, you have to show people's names. Like, that's how they, you got to show them. And
that's how they get credit.
So if you look at it now, and we're going to go see Doctor Strange later today, the new one.
Can't wait.
And Shelley's very excited. I am too. But I've never seen you more excited for a movie.
I know, it's weird.
So if you watch it at the end, they do credits, and it's usually like, has like an animated background or something where it's like, Benedict Cumberbatch, Rachel Adams, and then it ends, and then the crawl, like the black and white credits start.
Right.
So that's how they got around it, is they were like, well, you have to show the credits at the beginning, you have to show them at the end. And he's like, well, if I don't show them at the end, I can show them at the end, or the beginning, I can show them at the end, and then we'll do the crawl.
Okay.
So that's a lot of movies do that now, and especially Marvel movies and many others. But it's like you get all these credits of like animated credits of who was in the movie. When all the explosive credits are done, then you get the black and white credits showing you the same thing that you just watched.
Gotcha.
So, but yes, the 88, very long, poppy song, My Neighbor Totoro song.
Yeah, I mean it was poppy, but I didn't know when it was going to end and when the movie was going to start.
Right.
I guess I'm not very patient when it comes to that. So I'm like, let's get to it.
I was taking notes getting ready to start with the movie, and the opening song scared the shit out of me. I was like, okay, all right. I was writing some things down about I knew about the movie, and then it was like, and I'm like, oh my God.
Well, we're here. We're here for it. But it starts out with two little girls, which I actually thought one was a girl and a boy.
Yeah, before they start talking.
But we realize later they are sisters.
Played by real life sisters.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, well, that's kind of cool. But they're in this truck, and it's full of furniture and books, and, so it looks like they're moving. And the two girls are under a desk. And then what I thought was really funny is they thought they saw a policeman.
Oh, right.
On a bicycle. And they hide.
Yeah.
But as they're passing, they realize, oh, it's not a policeman on a bike. So they stick their head out and was like, sorry, I thought you were a policeman. Hi.
So that's a good point. I was reading here while we were just fighting with our cats.
Mm-hmm.
My editing skills, you'll never hear it.
Exactly.
But I was
so good.
Yeah, reading it, and it says that they were probably hiding because it's unsafe for them to ride in the back with all that stuff.
Right. I do remember at that time, I think I was little. I always wanted to ride in the back of the truck or a truck, but was like, no, it's not safe. And I'm like, well, so what? I'm a kid. But yeah, I think Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I used to ride. My dad had a truck when I was younger and would ride in the back. We remember they took me to go see a movie when I was younger, and me and my friend rode in the back.
Really?
Yeah, before they outlawed all that.
We didn't have a truck, so I'm sure if we did, then yeah, we would probably be in the back because then my dad and stepmom could drink in the front.
Oh, jeez.
Just saying. You know.
Mine was not similar to that. But...
Childhood. Yeah, your parents are great. But the family kind of gets to where they're going, where they're going to be living at, and they see some people out in the rice field, which is actually their new neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, waiting until later to introduce themselves, the dad screams at the neighbors working in the rice field, introducing themselves, and they're like, come visit us later or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little boy there, and he sees the two little girls, and then he freaks out.
Yeah.
Which I completely understand because that's how I get around kids.
I took it as just he's probably never been around girls very much,
No.
or he's a little boy.
No, I know. He was probably like, girls, they got cooties.
Yes.
But that's how I feel about kids. They got cooties.
Right.
I'm
They
just
do.
like,
It's just
stay away.
science.
No, if you have kids, then I love your kids. But personally, do not ever want to have kids.
Yeah.
It's too late anyway.
No. It's not something that we want. And I wrote several times in here, thank God we'd never having kids, seeing the girls reacting.
I mean, they were typical, and it was kind of fun to watch them kind of play around and remember the childhood era where your imagination goes wild and you make things up and you play around, and you don't really have to have, video games or whatever. You just kind of play with your own mind.
Yeah. The dad who is doing, this is the English dub, of course. We didn't watch the subtitles. So
Thank God.
Tim, I was thinking about that. Next month we're doing fantasy, spoiler.
Oh.
And I was thinking of doing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Ooh.
But if we watch the subtitle version, how hard would it be to read and then take notes?
I will just take notes on everything that's there. So you
Yeah.
have to pause like every 2 minutes.
But Tim Daly is the voice of the dad. And I love Tim Daly. He played Joe in Wings, which we used to watch all the time as a kid. My parents loved it. And he is the voice of Superman. Well, he did a lot of animated Superman, like especially the show.
Oh, wow.
So he's my Superman.
Oh.
And then yes, Dakota and Elle Fanning are the sisters playing Satsuki and May.
Yes.
So good luck.
Yeah. I mean, I can say Satsuki. May is actually spelled MEI, but in my notes I had to spell it MAY.
Yeah.
Otherwise I was going to be like mispronouncing it probably each time, or calling her Mai or something.
The beginning when they're rolling into the house, it just made me, I wrote here, I was like, man, this seems like it would be so pretty. Like, I wish I had no obligations. Like, that we could just go into the country and don't have to worry about, like, oh, work, I have to go back to work next week, or I'm on
right.
vacation and it's coming back. Like, there's definitely a feeling of these girls, like, somewhat of a freedom. Which is nice, because if it was me, I'm assuming they lived in the city, but if it was me and my parents moved into the country as a little kid, I'd probably be upset.
You'd be mortified.
Well, I don't like changes anyway. It's my OCD.
Yeah.
Legitimately, I'm not being like, oh, I hate cleaning, I have OCD. I do have OCD. So changes, like my work computer yesterday updated, and I'm just like, what the fuck? So changes don't sit well with me. I have to really get used to them. But yes, going from something that you know to something that you don't, that would bother me.
Yes. I'm the opposite. I love the country. I've lived out in the country before. Not technically country life with cows and animals and all that, but just open field, and you can have a bonfire and, just walk around naked if you wanted to, and nobody would see you.
Have an old lady walk into your house with a gun.
Yes. I'm surprised you remember that.
Well, of course. I was horrified when you told me that story.
Yes. So I have to tell this story now, because you probably were like, what in the hell? So I was in a relationship before Scott.
What?
I know.
I can't believe it.
It's insane. I can't believe it either. But we were moving. We just bought this nice trailer, and we were moving it on a lot out in the country. And I think we were unpacking, and then all of a sudden this lady comes in the house.
This lady.
Lady!
The way you said that.
She comes in the house with a gun and is like hollering for some guy. And we're like, hey, he's not here. And she's like pointing the gun at all of us. And it's very scary. There's me, the guy I'm in a relationship with, and then his two brothers all there. Luckily, one of the brothers knew something about guns. So he took the gun away from her and, disabled it so it couldn't be used. But we called the cops. And the cops come out. And they basically don't arrest her because she's just fucking crazy. She ended up being
problems, yeah.
Yeah, she ended up being like a neighbor across the street. And she thought, I think it was her dead husband. I could be completely wrong. Maybe I'm making all this up. But it sounds good. Could be her dead husband that she was looking for.
Really?
So
that's why I was like, yeah, I'm never going to the country.
Yeah.
I had suspicions, and then you told that story.
It was the scariest thing.
Oh, I bet.
But, yeah. She actually, I think she moved in with family or went to an old folks home or something shortly after that. So she wasn't around for very long.
Yeah. Yeah, after that, they would probably have to.
So anyway, that was that story. Welcome to my life. It's fascinating.
So that's just some things that happen in the country, and this podcast episode is quickly becoming like, don't move to the country.
I know.
Although you could get into adventures with Spirit of the Forests, as we'll find out here. So
yeah, I mean, this is a very neat story. But the family, they do get to their new home, and it's a little ran down,
Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a real shithole when they showed up.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought that was going to be like the joke, but... Japanese and American, jokes are different, so that I don't think they do that.
Yeah, maybe not. But the girls do say that it's creepy and that it could be haunted, and the front porch, like the overhead porch, is kind of rotting, and they start messing with it, and I'm just like, whoa.
This dad has got to be on drugs, because he never gets mad.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, oh, look, this beam holding up the front porch is rotted, and they push and push and push. And I was just like, maybe that's another difference in Japan, but I'm expecting this dad to be like, hey, guys.
Yeah, like, knock it off. You're going to tear down the whole house.
Yeah, but they're just running around laughing, exploring the house.
And he's all like, oh, it's cool. You guys just don't kill each other. It's fine.
And I was curious of what year this is, but apparently this takes place in like the 1950s.
Oh, okay.
So...
yeah, and that kind of makes sense later when they point some things out. But Zoot
Suit Riot?
I want to call her Suzuki. Is that
Satsuki,
it?
I think. Satsuki.
It's a jet ski. Suzuki.
You could just call her Dakota Fanning or Dakota if you want. Older sister, whatever. Satsuki.
Satsuki?
Yes.
Oh, God. Satsuki. That's easy to pronounce. I'm putting too many words in it. So Satsuki points out that there's a huge tree and asks her dad, what kind of tree is this? And he says it's I don't know how it's pronounced, if it's camphor or camper, but it's Camphor.
Oh, okay.
And I was kind of wondering, I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting what kind of tree that is, because if they point it out, it's got to mean something, right? But the tree is grown in China and Japan, and it's used for the oil that comes off the tree, and it's used for medical purposes.
Oh.
So.
Makes sense.
Yep. Later on, when we discuss some things, that'll make a lot of sense. But I found that on Gardening Know-How, and I'll reference all of that.
Okay.
But this is where they start finding acorns.
Yeah.
Which, okay, sure. But the dad mentions that maybe they have squirrels or rats.
Mm-hmm.
The girls are like, no, we have squirrels, not rats, because they were like, I hate rats.
Yeah, and this is where I also was asking what year it was, because the dad is helping move in like all their stuff, and he has a gigantic radio. Like the guy helping him move in is like moving in. And I was like, what year is this? Because, big radio makes me think of the 50s. So they never explicitly say it, but yeah, he's hauling in a big radio, and he's like, oh, maybe squirrels or rats.
Yeah. But they never play that radio. That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
So then the girls are just exploring more, and they go out to what I thought was a shed.
Yeah, me too.
And they open the door, and then they just start screaming. And my guess is that they're just trying to scare anybody that might be inside.
Yes.
So I'll scream before you scream. We all scream for ice cream.
I guess so.
And then it was like, oh, it's not a shed. It's actually a bath. And I guess it's separate from the house.
It
is because the dad comes out later.
Yeah.
That's right. It's attached, but it's also has a
mm-hmm.
door outside.
Yeah. And you see these black creatures. They're like these tiny little. They calls them soot gremlins,
Mm-hmm.
which they come back. I'm glad we watched Spirited Away first,
Right.
because they are in that again. They're the little soot creatures that the guy with a bunch of arms makes come to life.
Yeah, that's when I was reading through some stuff, it's a Ghibli thing, and it was only in Spirited Away and this
Oh wow!
My Neighbor Totoro.
And the logo for Ghibli is Totoro. It's like standing, and that's their logo for the company.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, and normally you don't see the soot gremlins unless you go from like a dark place to a light place, and then you kind of, I guess it's like you gotta sneak up on them. And then the girls, they're like, come out wherever you are. They're just trying to find all these soot gremlins.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, that's cool.
And I was just like, why is his dad so uncaring? Because at first they're like, we've got bugs. And he was like, bugs? Oh, that's okay. And they're like, yeah, they can't find them. They ran really quickly when we opened the door. And he's like, oh, that sounds like soot gremlins.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you not freaking out more?
It's the drugs.
Yes.
It's the cocaine he did. It's totally fine.
So he tasked the little girls. He was like, guys, I can't find the stairs to the upstairs attic.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, could you look around and find it? And at first I thought he meant like stairs that you could just like take and hold underneath.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't realize he was actually looking for stairs that led to the attic. I thought he meant like separate stairs that you pulled out.
Like the ones that fold down from the ceiling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nah, that... I was a little confused by this too, but I thought it was cute that the sisters were kind of running around and the little sister would just repeat what the older sister was doing.
Yeah, she's doing everything that the big one does, yes.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's cute. That's kind of what I would think. Because I read that Satsuki, right?
Yep.
Satsuki is 10 years old and May is like 4 years old.
Oh, okay.
So
they open the attic door and they see the stairs and they're like kind of scared because it just leads into a dark attic.
Mm-hmm.
And they hear like a noise at the top of the stairs.
But they see an acorn bouncing down the stairs. So I think that they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they start doing the come out wherever you are. And then they climb to the top of the stairs and they scream again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then they abruptly stop because they notice it's just completely empty.
Yeah, there's nothing there. But there is, like, Satsuki runs real quick and opens up the window. Mm-hmm. So there's light in there. And yeah, there's nothing in the attic.
You can, they can't see it, but we can see the soot gremlins kind of scurrying away and hiding. Mm-hmm. And so they don't get found. And this is when Satsuki yells to her dad. She's like, something weird is in this house.
And he says, like, oh, I've always wanted to live in a haunted house.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Cocaine, man.
I guess.
Got to get some.
Something heavier than cocaine.
Might need some now because all the kids we're recording earlier. So we're throwing their time schedule off.
Yeah.
And they just want to play right now.
Our cat Barry's going crazy. Lily's just trying to ignore him.
Yeah.
But May sees like a kind of a hole in the wall.
Yeah, like a little crack or I don't know.
Yeah, like a crack. So she walks over and she just sticks her fingers in the crack in the wall and like all these soot gremlins come out.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up grabbing one.
Yeah. Like she slaps her hands together right as one is coming down.
So they're very excited that they caught one. So they run downstairs right into Granny. They call it the old lady. They're like freaked out. And it's kind of a funny reveal. It's like a horror movie where it's like, bung, like focuses on her and they're like, ah!
Oh my gosh, this old lady.
Yes.
Is it the poltergeist?
Poltergeist lady.
She's like, hello, child. I'm here to clean your house, child.
You've got soot gremlins, child.
Don't go towards the light. So I think I have to do that voice every time.
Really?
I just love her.
She has a very funny voice, yeah.
And I don't do it justice at all. I don't sound anything like her. I re-listen.
Neither, yeah.
Yeah, I re-listen to some of it, and I'm like, oh, God.
The poor lady, thankfully she's dead. She didn't have to hear this.
Yeah, thank goodness.
She's at rest. So May, like, opens up her hands to show what they've caught, and her hands are just filthy. Mm-hmm. And the soot is gone. It's just actual soot now.
And Granny calls them soot sprites.
Yes.
And she points out, she's like, I saw them when I was little, too. And if they like you, they'll hang around. And if not, then you won't see them.
Yes. Yeah, she's like, if they decide that you're good people, they won't hurt you. They're probably upstairs right now deciding if they need to leave.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to be like, what if you're bad? Like, what do they do to you if you're bad?
Ugh.
Like, well, the last people in this house were terrible and they got straight up murdered.
Murdered by soot spirits.
They skinned him alive.
But a fun fact that I found out about soot sprites is that they're similar to a Western folklore creature called brownies.
Oh, really?
I mean, who doesn't like brownies?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Not the ones you're thinking of, I bet.
No. These brownies are fairy-like creatures that look dirty, like soiled, and they perform tasks around the house. But as soon as you see them, they disappear.
Oh, gotcha.
So I thought that was kind of cute. I was like, well, brownies is kind of a weird name for a fairy.
Yeah. Well, that's like the opening to Gremlins when the dad is like talking about what they are. And I think he says it at the end too, where he's like, if you ever have something go wrong, or if there's ever like a light or bad things start happening, you just might have a gremlin. So it's like, you ever have things, go right? And if things are happening and they're good things happening to you, then you might just have a soot sprite.
Yeah, and I got this off of Screen Rant, which I will put a link in our show notes. And it kind of talks about the other folklores in the Ghibli movies. So if you want to read through other things, I'll just have that and you just click on it and read away. I just don't want to bore you too much.
So, well, Granny is like, well, I'm here to help you get everything set up, so let's get going. And Satsuki and Mei have to run down to the creek to get water for their little generator that they've got or whatever it is.
Yes.
So they run down, and there's a very nice little walk bridge or a bridge they can drive over, over this water.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets a bucket of water, and Mei is like, oh, no fish.
Yeah.
I doubt there would be fish in there.
Okay.
And then another little callback here is that it shows like a little montage of them cleaning the house and everything. And Satsuki is cleaning the floor, and she's running back and forth like the main character Sen did in Spirited Away.
Yeah.
There's a part where she's working at the bathhouse in that movie, and she's like, they're all running back and forth, and she's terrible at it to start.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, that's neat. I don't know if that's a callback or if just how people clean the floors, but
I did find this part a little odd. So I did some research and I found out that non-potable water, which kind of means you can't drink it.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I got from it. Has been a thing. Let me back up. Non-potable water is reused and has been a thing in Japan since the early 1980s.
Oh, okay.
And it's mainly used for toilets and landscaping. It's just a way to recycle water. Because I'm like, why do they have to go to the river for water? But then maybe their house doesn't have any water either.
That's what I just assumed, yeah, with it being said in the older time.
Yeah. But I thought that was really neat. I wish we did that more here in America.
Yeah, I mean, I guess...
You didn't catch the America.
I did catch the America,
Okay.
yeah. I was just thinking, who knows how long it would take to switch over to that.
Oh, true.
Type.
And try to get people. I mean, we can't even get people to wear masks. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, they're cleaning, and Kanta, the little boy from the beginning, shows up, and he's there to deliver like a package or something to Gran.
Yeah, like a little basket.
And he won't come into the house.
He's terrified.
Yeah, he tells Satsuki that the house is haunted.
Yeah, he yells it from the yard, like into the house.
Yeah, and I think Gran's there where she's like, hey, you hush up now. And I think Satsuki like sticks her tongue out at him.
Yeah.
And there's just another scene where Satsuki is getting wood. I think it's at night, but she's like getting wood or chopping wood for a fire or whatever. And
Yeah.
like the wind from the forest just comes and it's like almost blowing her away.
It like blows the wood out of her arm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is a huge gust of wind. But then she just gathers more wood.
Yeah, she's like, oh, well, that was kind of weird.
'Cause-
That was like a twister that just came through here. Almost.
Right.
F5.
Some side winds going on.
All right, so we're going to talk about this for a minute here.
Oh.
So she was getting wood for the bath, I imagine, for hot water.
Okay.
Because this next scene,
Oh, was this the best?
as Americans, is a little different for
It
us.
was creepy.
I looked it up. Apparently, communal baths are a thing, or were maybe in Japan at the time. The composition of this scene is very weird because
Mhm.
it just cuts. They're all in the bath. Dad and the two girls. and the dad's they're all naked. The little girl, I think it's May, her head is strategically placed in the shot to cover up the dad's junk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's shocking to see.
It is.
And yeah, it was very shocking. As Americans, you see that and you're just like, we both kind of looked at each other and we're like, holy crap, I forgot about that scene when I've watched it before.
And Satsuki was even outside of the bath,
Yeah.
bathing herself. And it was, I don't know, again, it's probably childhood trauma for my part, but I'm just like, this isn't clean. This doesn't look right.
There's something off about it, yes.
Yeah. But I'm sure it was very wholesome.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not, I'm sure as a poor, well, it doesn't say they're poor, but, I'm sure they have to conserve water.
Yeah.
They're taking a bath at the same time, and they're younger kids. I remember, my mom bathing me when I was a young kid, or I remember that at least she said she did, so it just feels weird. It's a disconnect between the cultures that we don't do that here.
Right.
So it was strange. And I read when they were doing the dub for this movie, they tried to cut this scene out.
Really?
Because they were like, I don't think America's gonna like that very well. But they were like, no, it's part of the Japanese culture. They really would like. I think we need to keep it, and they did.
Yeah, isn't it interesting though how cultures are so different?
Mm-hmm.
How you can be like, oh my gosh, how could you do that? And then they'd be like, well, how could you not? This is family time. This is what we do to conserve water.
Yeah.
They even have like a little good splashing time in the bath. I mean, it was a good family moment. It's just, I think it's ruined on our end because of, all of the awful things that do happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's not so much maybe a culture thing, but just the people that have ruined the innocence of maybe what that once was.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, exactly.
I think they hear noises outside and the girls are like scared.
Mm-hmm.
And this dad, he's on laughing gas now or something because he just starts laughing. He's like, ha, 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 ha. He's like, try laughing and make it go away.
Yeah. It's like, whatever scares you will go away. And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess if you're insane,
I guess
that could happen.
So they have a huge water fight, and then you see the soot sprites leaving. They're getting out of the house, and they fly away into the air.
Yeah, I think they go into the big tree.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
They're like, I'm out of here. I'm going to the tree.
So we cut to maybe the next day, but we see that they're riding a bike, and they're going to visit the mom. Because at this point, we both, I think, had thought the mom was dead, maybe not in the picture.
No idea what the mom was doing.
So they're riding a bike, and as they're passing by Gran, because she lives just right down the way, and they're like, oh, we're going to go visit our mom. And Gran's like, I hope she's feeling better.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, okay, well, she's sick.
Right.
So I guess cars maybe weren't a big thing, maybe not in that time, especially maybe even in Japan. I didn't even think to look that up, but the dad's riding this bike, and they have to ride so far in order to go to the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think they even said they got lost along the way. I didn't put that in my notes, but that's kind of what I'm remembering.
Yeah, it sounds right, because I think it shows him, like, taking a break or him, like, pushing the bike up the hill.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And I was like, I said it here, I was like, man, it'd be nice if they had a car. But I guess, because I thought that was their car at the beginning when they had all the stuff, but I'm thinking that's the moving truck.
Can you imagine how healthier we would be if we had to bike everywhere?
Yeah.
I mean, insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that a lot because, cars have ruined that, but we both work from home, and it's just like we don't really move around very much during the day.
Yeah, we would never bike because we work at home.
Well, we would, but we could, but I was just thinking of like how sedentary we've all become.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, working from home, I've started to go for walks and, getting back into the shape of doing that. I'm like, man, just sitting at home all day, even if you're walking around the house, isn't very much exercise.
No, I think this pandemic is going to definitely increase some heart disease.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But hopefully, since things are maybe a little better, people can start getting out a little more and exercising.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so we see the mom, and she is in this hospital, and it does look like an old kind of hospital. They're all like, there's several beds in this one room where all these people are.
Yep.
I read that the mom supposedly is supposed to have tuberculosis.
Yes.
Because I think Miyazaki's mom had tuberculosis.
Mm-hmm, that's what I read too.
Okay.
Yeah, he kind of took this from when he was younger. His mom was sick and was kind of in a hospital like this, which makes sense because later I'm like, is she in a mental hospital?
Yeah.
You know, is this hospital holding her captive? I don't know. This just seems strange that because she seems okay. Like because when you think of somebody in the hospital, you think of them, laying or sleeping or hooked up to a bunch of wires,
Yeah.
which then probably didn't happen. But
Maybe not.
she
Yeah.
was sitting up in bed and she even brushed one of the girls' hair and had a conversation. And
Yeah. Satsuki's like, oh, she's like, Satsuki, your hair is so short.
mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, I want my hair to be just like yours.
Yeah. It's like, that's sweet.
Yeah, and the little girl May like really loves the mom. She's like sitting with her and wants her to come home so bad.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell they all like really care about her. It was just kind of a weird transition to be like, oh, the mom's in the hospital.
Yeah.
Now we have no idea why.
I guess it makes sense because from what I've heard of tuberculosis, they say you should move to like a dry area. Like
Mm-hmm.
my dad is a huge fan of the Old West, and in Doc Holliday, you read about him, and in the movie Tombstone, he moved out west. Because they said that like a drier climate would be good for your tuberculosis.
Yes.
So, and maybe I don't know if he moved to the tree, but maybe he moved to the tree, close to that tree for healing purposes.
He does mention later that when he saw this tree, he knew he had to move
Gotcha.
by it or close to it or something like that. So that's when I read about the oil used for medical purposes. I'm like, oh, that's probably why.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, oh, this is a healing tree. We need to be close to this tree.
And we're dealing with Shinto again, the Japanese religion of basically everything having like a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking to the spirit of the tree. We're talking to the spirits of the forest. Totoro.
I love. Yeah, we'll get into some things later where they ask permission. They're just very respectful and
Yeah, you see some statues later,
Mm-hmm.
like just statues that honor the different spirits and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's super cool.
So we cut to the next day, and the little girls wake the dad up super early. Another time I wrote in my notes, thank God we don't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to get ready for school. So Satsuki is going to school.
Satsuki is nice enough to make lunch for everybody.
Yeah, the dad's like, oh shit, I forgot.
Yeah,
I passed out early last night.
I was binge drinking and passed out. That's how I can get through the day.
So these kids like pass by the house that they live in, and this little girl is, I don't know if she's still going to the same school or if she made a new friend, because the dad, I think it's a new friend, because the dad's like, wow, you made a friend already.
Yeah, which again, that's kind of like, I guess that happens behind the scenes or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, it's a new friend in the new school, so she's excited to walk to school with her.
Yeah, so she's leaving for the day, and the dad, we find out that he's like a professor. I don't exactly know what he teaches or whatnot, but he's like working on some paperwork or maybe a lesson plan or something.
I could be wrong, but I want to say that Satsuki, when she calls him later, asks for the oncology department. But I don't know if that's a thing in that time.
Cancer, I would imagine. It says that oncology is the treatment of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine, Lord, cancer's been around forever.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you would think he would get paid a buttload.
He probably is. I mean, that's why they could probably move, and he just wants to move into this house.
Yeah, it could be.
But he's working on paperwork and stuff, and May is dressed up as like a little gardener or something.
Mm-hmm.
This is the cute part. Like when
Yeah,
kids
it
do
is.
that, she's like, Dad, am I all grown up? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, what are you going to be doing today? And she's like, I'm going to run some errands.
Yeah, that was really adorable. I will say that. Yes.
But again, this dad, it just doesn't seem to care about her because she's just running all over.
Yeah.
Like wherever she wants.
But if you think when you were younger, you kind of did the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we lived on a cul-de-sac when I was a kid, so there really wasn't anywhere we could go. I mean, we could go into like a field. There was a field at the house at that time. We could walk through that. But yeah, they didn't really care.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess when I was real younger, we lived in the trailer park. I couldn't go past the second speed bump,
Oh, really?
which is it was by a highway and a busy street. So I mean, I get it. Parents are trying to keep us a little bit
Yeah.
safe. But later on, when I lived with my mom, and we kind of lived in this rural area, and I mean, I could be gone all day.
Yeah. And I would always be outside playing or at another kid's house. But my dad used to let me ride to the gas station that was a little ways up. So, I mean, like, Can you imagine doing that
No.
now?
No.
So yeah, she's running around. She's exploring the area. She finds a bucket with like a hole in it. And she's like,
Yeah.
what a stupid bucket.
She was going to try to find more water for the tadpoles that she found.
Yeah, she finds a pond full of tadpoles. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she finds this bucket with a hole, and she's like, "Well, hell!" And she looks through it, like little kids do, and she sees something shiny, and it's an acorn.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Yep.
I didn't know acorns were shiny. But
I don't know.
here we are.
And she looks around and she sees a ghost rabbit. You can see through it.
Yeah,
It's like a white little rabbit. It's apparently in the trivia they refer to this species as a Totoro. They're like, oh, it's Totoro, and the big one is King Totoro. So it's a little Totoro rabbit.
Okay,
But you can see through him as he's walking.
I just put translucent creature.
Yes. So she's kind of following him, and the little rabbit gets scared and runs underneath the house, and May like follows him to find him. So she sits and waits for him to come out of the hole, and I was afraid she was going to go underneath the house.
Yeah, in the crawl space.
Yes.
I'm like, no, it's scary under there.
And she waits, and then on another side or the other side of the house, like a blue and white rabbit now come out with like a bag of acorns. They're running away from her.
Yeah, the blue one I think was a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And the white one was smaller.
So she chases them into the forest through this like little thicket that she can run through, and we later see it's not that big because the dad has to crawl through it.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like running all around the forest, and I'm like, oh my god, this is kind of
Yes.
scary. She's
like,
gonna get lost.
She's gonna get lost. She's gonna starve to death. Oh my gosh.
And she comes across the big tree. You see the two Totoros. They run into like this opening in the tree, and then May runs by and like doesn't see them. But she sees the opening of the tree and just automatically goes in it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
why
not what I would not, which is not what I would do. If I'm like, there's a hole in that tree, I'm not going to go in there.
As a kid, definitely I would.
I don't think I would have.
I would have been like, whoop, here we go.
So she falls in this hole. She falls for a bit and like hits the ground, and her eyes are like going in different directions. She's like kind of knocked out. And she sees the namesake of the movie, Totoro.
Mm-hmm.
He's there sleeping, and she's like in his little sleeping area, his room.
Giant.
Yeah, he's huge.
Just massive.
Which Totoro is voiced by Frank Welker, most known for doing Scooby-Doo. He did the voice of Fred and Scooby-Doo. Has done a ton of voices, and he's doing Totoro. He's doing the...
Yeah, I was like, Totoro doesn't really talk. He just kind of growls and mumbles and...
Yeah, well, Frank Welker is known for doing that. Like,
Yeah.
he gets hired. He did the voice of the snake in Anaconda. Or, yeah, he gets hired to do that because he can do weird shit like that.
Mm.
I once listened to a podcast of the guy who did the voice of Ren and Stimpy and Fry on Futurama,
Yeah.
Billy West, and he once said of Frank Welker that like he can make amazing noises. It's almost like he's got like another chamber in his throat
Wow.
for how he can make these noises.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but Totoro does make some guttural noises like. So I can't
Exactly like that.
Yeah, I can't do it because I don't have the third chamber. But yeah, she sees Totoro and not being like me, she is not terrified and starts to crawl on him.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's just a big stuffed animal.
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess Totoro is had a long night because he like wakes up and sees her and then like falls back asleep.
He was binge drinking with the dad.
He and the dad are friends.
That's why the dad's so cool.
I just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood. Here's a 6-pack. Would you like to drink this with me? Well, I thought you weren't going to ask. And then the dad wakes up in the morning and he's just like, did I go on a bender with a 8-foot rabbit?
What happened last night?
He's like, nah.
Why does my butt hurt?
What was that? Me, Myself, and Irene?
Yes.
Where he wakes up in the morning and he's like, my butt hurts. And he finds a dildo and he's like, oh, did you have a little fun last night? And she's like, it wasn't for me.
Oh, yeah. Or when he goes to pee and he's peeing like everywhere.
Yeah, he's like, why am I peeing like I just had sex?
Yes.
Which, I mean, that's, not to get too gross, but like he was peeing like 2 different angles completely. I mean,
He was.
It gets a little strange, but not as bad as
Nah.
that.
That was a little extreme.
Yes. So May just falls asleep on Totoro's chest. She just, she cuddles up to him and falls asleep.
Yeah. Which was, I'm like, man, I bet that was comfortable.
I bet, yeah. Depending on how soft he is. Hopefully it's not like like a horse or a cow where their fur, their hair is just covered in like dirt and shit.
That's true, because he is outside.
I don't know, you just pet, if you ever touched a horse or a cow, you're like, oh.
Yeah, you get that. You definitely have a little grime left on your hand. That's for sure.
It'd be funny if she's like covered in like soot again.
Did you find more soot gremlins?
No, I fell asleep on this giant rabbit.
Oh, okay, that's better.
I think he says it here, but I think she was like, what's your name? And I think he's like, Totoro.
I think she called him Totoro.
Well, he says he makes some sound, and she's like, Totoro, is that your name? And he's like,
okay, well, good. I didn't catch that.
That'd be funny if she's like, what's your name? And he's like, Burl. And she's like, Totoro?
Totoro?
Burl. I heard Totoro.
Totoro it is. You're no longer Bill. You're
Yeah.
now Totoro.
He's just pissed off every time. This is my friend Totoro. So Sasuke gets home from school, and she's like, hey, how's it going, Dad? I got home, and she was like, how was your lunch that I made for you today? And the dad's like, oh, shit, I forgot.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's rude. She worked hard on that.
Yeah. I was wondering how long school was, because it doesn't seem to be too late. You think the dad, or maybe he was just working so hard, but I mean, like school for us, get out at like 2:50, 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So
Yeah, mine was like 5 in the evening, but
damn.
Cool. No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
Like back in the day when they had you working coal miners hours.
That's right. I had to walk uphill both ways.
So she was like, oh, well, where's May at? And he's like, that's a good question. I have no idea.
Yeah. Who's May again?
Yeah. So she runs around trying to find her. And does she find something like by the brush?
She finds a hat.
Her hat. Okay.
Yeah.
So she crawls through the little grove that May did, and she finds May like sleeping in the middle of the woods. And May's like, oh, I found this guy, Totoro. He kept saying Bill, but that's not his name.
And they were like, you're a liar.
Yeah. Well, the dad comes crawling through, and instead of being like, oh my God, I can't believe you disappeared, he was like, wow, look at this place. This would make for a great hideout.
Right. Again. Like, he's on something for sure.
I don't know. But they go through, May's like, no. You got to see this big tree where Totoro was. So they take the road a little bit further, and the big tree is gone. Mm-hmm. It's not there anymore.
It actually loops them back around to the house. Like
I thought they came out on the neighbor's side.
Oh, maybe they did.
Either way, they come out and they're like next to the house.
Yeah, it's completely not there anymore.
Yeah, and May's like, this is horse shit. I saw it. So she runs back in, and she comes out like right by them again.
Yeah.
And they just start laughing at her.
Oh, yeah, she gets a little upset, which I can't blame her. I've been a little kid and your parents don't believe you.
My parents still do that to me today. I'm like, I'll think of something and be like, do you guys remember when we did X, Y, and Z? And they're like, no.
Oh, boy.
They're like, you make up stories.
What?
They do that. It makes me so frustrated. So they're getting older now, and so their memory is not the greatest, especially my mom. Mom, you'll never listen to this, but I love you. Yeah, it's very frustrating when people do that to you.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I'm like, do you remember there was that funny time where you did this and we all laughed? And like, no.
It doesn't hurt to say, oh, okay. You don't have to believe them. Just be
Yeah,
like,
they could just...
okay, okay.
How about you just do this? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good time. I don't remember that.
That's better than okay.
I'm like, you guys are in your 60s. I remember better than you do.
That's right.
That makes me mad. No. So the dad's all like, hey, you know what? I bet you met the spirit of the forest. And he's like, they don't always want you to see them, so you're pretty lucky that you saw one.
Yeah, and he's like, the reason why we can't see him right now is because they don't want to be found.
Yeah. And he's like, let's go pay our respects to the tree,
yes,
to the forest spirits. And they walk, and there's the tree.
Yeah, the big tree. And I just love this part because they kind of stand at attention.
Yeah.
And they thank it for taking care of May.
Yes. Yeah, they're very respectful to it. And that's what we need. We need to just be more respectful to nature, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, nature's our whole life.
Yep.
I mean, it is our life source.
I did read something that they have a drone that plants seeds for trees, and they expect to 100 million trees planted by 2045 or 2025.
That's awesome.
That'd be great, yeah.
Wow. As long as we have, areas to still grow trees and it's not like full of apartments and shit.
It's not that Star Wars planet, Coruscant, where it's just an entire city. The whole thing's a city.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's too much.
The one thing to note about this tree when they do find it with their dad is that giant hole is gone in the side of it.
Yep. That's right. Yeah.
And I'm like, in any other movie, the parents probably would think the kids were crazy. The kids would be telling the dad or the parents this, be like, we had a huge adventure and blah, blah, blah. And the dad would be like, whatever. Like, no. But he believes them.
Yeah. I kind of was like, well, this is completely opposite to Spirited Away, because the parents in Spirited Away was kind of rude. Kind of ignored the daughter, and this is kind of the opposite, where the dad is kind of ignoring them, but also is almost has the same mindset as a little kid.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, this could be a hiding place, or oh, I hope this house is haunted. Not like a real dad. I would think a real dad would be like.
Right. I had the feeling the the parents in Spirited Away are reflected by the way that the little girl sees them. At the beginning, she's upset with them. She doesn't want to be moving, so she views them as being cold. But then at the end, when she realizes how important they are to her, they're very loving.
Okay.
So that's what I picked up from that. But yes, different. Very different.
It is.
We get some time where we see Satsuki writing a letter to the mom. She's writing about like what they had and what they saw. Like, oh, the tree, and May saw a tree spirit. So we see the school. We actually see Satsuki's school, and we see Kanta is in class, and he's looking at Satsuki like through the window.
Is that the neighbor?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he was in class with her.
Oh, you're totally right. Yeah, I didn't have the layout here. So yes, he is in school with her. Yes,
and he's staring at her.
He is staring at her, and the teacher comes by and smacks him in the head with a book.
Yeah, and that poor kid. I mean, we'll get into it, but yeah, he gets hit in the head here.
Yes. So Satsuki's like talking to her friends, or she's studying or whatever, but she looks outside and she sees Granny and May standing at the entrance.
She's like, what the hell? I'm in school here.
Yeah, and this is what I thought was crazy, is that she was like, oh, teacher, I have to go for a second. I see my sister and Granny outside. And the teacher's like, sure. But like, yeah, you try to walk out of school when I was a kid, they ain't letting it happen.
Absolutely not.
They'd probably get the cops called on them for letting a kid go outside.
When I was younger, they still had spankings in school.
Oh, really?
So that may date me a little bit, but yeah, you don't do anything wrong.
Yeah,
because the principal will spank your ass.
How terrible we used to have it. Like, man, we've come so far, and I know people are all like, oh, you babied these kids too much, but like, did we really have it better before all this?
Yeah, no.
So the dad has gone to work. He works in town or whatever as a professor, works at the college. So May has had to stay with Granny, and May is not having it. Granny's like, I don't know what's wrong. She was fine, and then she just, started crying.
She wants her sister. She misses her sissy.
Yeah, and here's another, yeah, sure, is that it cuts and May is now sitting in the classroom with Satsuki.
Right.
And she's like, the teacher, by the way, is all like, oh, this is Satsuki's sister May, and her mom is sick and her dad's working, so let's all be extra nice to May.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, thanks for telling my business.
Yeah.
To the whole freaking class. Thanks.
And then, I don't know if do we ever see this teacher again? I don't think we do.
No.
You know why? Because she got fucking fired.
She's fired. Yeah.
For letting the little girl in class, like, you let a strange kid come in here? I know it's the 50s, but...
Come on, we don't do that.
And they're all like reading, it's reading time or something in the classroom, and May is drawing Totoro. And she's like being very loud, and Satsuki's like, May, you gotta be fucking quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's like, gosh, this is so embarrassing.
If the principal finds out, we will get executed.
Yeah. That's what they used to do before spankings.
Yeah, they were like, are we being too harsh killing people?
I mean, we've really evolved.
So we show the girls walking home from class, and they get stuck in the rain. She's like, oh, the rain's about to happen, and I didn't even bring an umbrella. And like, they're running because it starts to rain, and May falls down. And I have it written down when she gets back up, and she's like, oh, I fell and I didn't even cry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a kid thing too, right? Because, I mean, I think when you fall, it's not that it's painful that you cry. It's just it's scary.
Shock. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's, from what I've read, which I don't even know how I read this, but they say if a kid falls, not to try to react too much.
Oh, I see.
Because then if you act like it's no big deal, then they'll just get back up.
Yeah.
And
Oh, okay.
you can inspect them to make sure they're okay. But if you're all like, oh my gosh, you fell down, like I do with our kids, like our fur kids.
Yes.
I would be awful with real kids. So I'm like, oh my gosh, my poor little baby, are you
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
But anyway, they say it's not good to
Not good to do that at all. Okay.
Just some parenting advice from somebody that doesn't have kids. You're welcome.
Well, one thing I did like is that as they're running, they stop in like a little statue of the spirits, and they're like, "Hello, sir. Can we share this for just a moment?"
Yeah, which I thought, man, that's just so nice. It's just so fucking respectful.
Yeah.
And then I'm also thinking, well, as kids, you really don't care about getting wet. I mean, I've been out in the rain as kids.
Yeah.
Who cares? You play anyway.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, Kantu, the neighbor boy, walks by and he has an umbrella.
Yeah.
And he sees them and he doesn't say a word. He just offers the umbrella up.
He grunts.
Yeah. And then he just gives it to him without saying a word and then just runs away.
Mm-hmm.
And he smiles as he does, which is just kind of strange. I mean, like, unfortunately, nothing comes of this, but I guess they're just showing that, like, oh, he's a little boy and he's scared to talk to girls, but...
Yeah, he's like, I think he kind of likes her, but also is scared of girls. So he doesn't really know how to act, but he wants to be nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got from that. I thought it was a very sweet gesture because he ends up telling his mom that he left his umbrella at school.
Yes, and she calls him a fool and hits him.
Hits him in the head. This poor guy.
It's insane.
This poor little kid is going to have fucking brain damage because people keep hitting him in the head.
He's going to fucking have some real problems as he grows up, but the girls show up to give him his umbrella back. And this mom is so happy to see these little girls. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, hi, Satsuki and May. How are you doing? It's so nice to see you. And she's like, oh, he gave us his umbrella. And she calls him, she's like, oh, that's Kantu for you. He's a dirty little kid.
Yeah, I call a dirty boy.
I'm
I'm like, oh, gosh.
And I'm like, she's so excited to see them over her own son.
I have so many problems with this little episode here that mom is just awful.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he did this really nice thing, and she's just bashing the shit out of him, calling him a fool.
It's a little rough, for sure. So now, the girls are like, well, I can go wait for Dad at the bus stop. Then they have to run to the bus stop to wait for their dad to come home.
Yeah, because he forgot his umbrella.
Oh, yes, that's right. It's raining, and May wants to come, and she's like, oh, you can stay here, just get some sleep, but May wants to come with her. Mm-hmm. So they walk, and they stand at the bus stop, and they are standing there in the rain, and this bus stops, and nobody's on it that they know. Like, their dad's not on it, and they're like, oh, well, he must be on the next one, I guess.
He must be running late.
So they're standing there in the rain, and May is, like, falling asleep. So Satsuki's like, hey, here, I can pick you up and hold you, and she kind of bends over and has her on her back.
Yeah.
And then she notices that Totoro is standing next to her.
Yeah, she hears, like, footsteps kind of like in the mud, kind of sloshing. And then you see Totoro right next to her. And I'm like, he's a giant.
Yes.
But she's kind of like shocked and excited at the same time, I think. Like, oh my gosh, I get to see him. Because that's kind of what she was saying after May saw him. She was like, oh, I didn't get to see him.
Yeah, he's got a little leaf on his head like a hat.
Yes.
I will try to find the picture, but I did draw a picture a long time ago of Cthulhu, the destroyer.
Yeah.
From H.P. Lovecraft. So it's the two girls standing there in the rain, but instead of Totoro, it's Cthulhu. Oh. I have a little Cthulhu action figure, the green guy down there, and I made it look like him, but he has the big bug eyes.
Oh.
So I'll see if I can't find that picture so I can post it online, but I wrote My Neighbor Cthulhu.
I like your drawings. I'd love to see that. But the little leaf that he has on his head was causing raindrops to fall on his nose.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like he's this giant and he's got this itty bitty little leaf on his head.
Yeah, his head.
On his head.
So Sasuke gives him the umbrella and he's like holding it over his head, but the rain falling on it kind of freaks him out. like every time the rain falls on it, his eyes bug out. It's like boom.
Yeah, because they're under a tree, and you know how sometimes it can just kind of fall hard?
Uh-huh.
Like, it's not raining harder, but it can fall almost like when you're driving, too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's pouring down, but it's really not.
No, I guess he's actually happy because he jumps up
Mm-hmm.
and slams down, so like all this water falls down on him.
Yep.
So they're standing there, and the girls see like a bus coming down the way, and they're like, "Oh, great, this is the one for us." And it's not.
It's the bus for Totoro.
It's the bus for Totoro. It's a very, I don't know, this kind of threw me, this design of this cat bus. Just the hole in the side of it. So it's basically like the cat, it's like a cat, but it has like a bus on the top of it.
Yeah.
And like the door is skin. The door just widens when they need to and closes when they get in.
Yeah.
It was strange.
It was very weird, and it reminded me of the Cheshire
Yeah, Cheshire cat.
cat.
However, yeah, it's hard to say.
It is in words, you know. I thought it was kind of neat, but weird.
Yeah, and like a bus, it has like on the top of it like a where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Japanese, so we couldn't read it, but like when it goes somewhere, it changes.
Yeah, like the
It's like
destination.
ding, 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 ding. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they see him run off, and they're just like, or the bus takes off with Totoro in it, and before he leaves, he gives him a package.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, and he takes off, and they're just like in shock that they saw him.
Like, holy crap, what just happened?
And so another bus comes down the way, and it actually is the bus with their dad on it.
Yeah.
And he gets off, and they're like, Dad, we saw Totoro. Oh my God, we saw.
It's cat bus. Oh my gosh, it's so weird.
Yeah. You would think, like, if they remade this movie for like an American audience, you think they'd be like, and then he was big and gave him his umbrella, and then there was this cat bus, and like its side opened up, and it'd be like, sure,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, I need a bottle of vodka. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I don't actually have a job in the city. I go to beg for money so I can get my fix. So they unwrap Totoro's gift, Satsuki is writing another letter to the mom, and she says when they opened up his package, they found that there was just a bunch of acorns in there.
Yeah.
So they planted them, and they've been watching them every day to see, and nothing's happening.
It's not happening. I mean, I feel that so much. I garden, and I tried to plant this year from seeds.
Yeah.
And I got a few. I got half
Yeah.
of what I planted. And I had to replant. I don't know. I'm not much of a grower, but I try.
Yeah, no, you do, and it can be difficult to do. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the movie here, is she's like giving this long letter to her mom, and she's like, we planted the acorns and nothing happened. Here's a drawing of May as a crab.
Yes.
It's just like a little kid thing.
Just, again, showing their innocence.
Yeah.
It's just so cute.
So the girls go to sleep, and Satsuki wakes up, and she sees Totoro with the other two Totoros, like kind of doing this procession, like dung dung dung, walking
It's
in
the Dondoko dance.
What is that?
I don't know, but I know it's the Dondoko dance. Every time when you Google Dondoko dance, it just pops up a bunch of things that you can buy of Totoro and the umbrella and them dancing. But it's kind of like a Japanese, from what I gather, it's a Japanese kind of culture on what they do to try to get things to grow.
Oh, okay.
It's just a rain dance.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like Indians would do.
Like a rain dance, yeah.
Yeah. So instead of a rain dance, this is the Dondoko.
Yeah, so they're standing over the little garden area where they planted their acorns. And I will try to link it. We could probably link the video on our Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we could link a video on our Instagram, like a YouTube video. I don't think so. But there is an awesome reference to this in Bob's Burgers that I showed you when we finished the movie.
Yeah, it was so funny.
Bob is trying to cook a turkey for Thanksgiving, and he keeps drinking, and he passes out drunk. And he has this dream of exactly what happens in Totoro. So the girls go over, and like they're doing this thing where they like kind of reach to the ground and reach up this dance, and the girls like mimic him and do the same thing, and the acorns grow.
Yeah, it's almost like they're scooping them and pulling them up to grow. So you just like scoop down and pull it up. So it's really kind of cool. Yeah,
like down to the ground and up to the sky, and the acorns grow into like this gigantic forest.
Yeah, like I think at first it was like a bunch of trees, and then it grew into one big ass tree.
Yeah, it like towering over the home, and the dad is just, it shows him sitting in the house, like not even paying attention to it.
No idea. He's too drunk.
Too drunk or on something else.
I'm going to keep this going.
He just took a injection in the arm. So the girls, the other two Totoro animals, the smaller ones, and then two girls, they see the Totoros jump on him, the big King Totoro, and like hold on. So they jump on him as well. And like this spinning top comes up, and Totoro like jumps on it, and they fly way up into the sky on top of this gigantic tree that they've just made.
Yeah, and I remember asking you while we were watching the movie, I was like, what the hell is he on?
It's like a top.
It is like a spin topper.
Almost like a, kind of like the dreidel. The dreidel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like to me, but yeah, like a spinny top thing.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I'm like, yep, that like clicked into my head.
As he's flying to the top of the tree, he just roars.
Mm-hmm.
Like this huge animalistic like roar, and the girls, instead of like shitting their pants like I would have, are like roaring with him.
Yeah.
They're like, ah!
They're like, we do this all the time.
Yeah. And so this is where the dad, he like finally looks out the window and he sees Totoro and the girls are like sitting on top of this tree.
Mm-hmm.
And Totoro's like playing this little flute.
Yeah, out of an acorn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he's so drunk, he doesn't even know. He's like, I'm just seeing things. and he just goes back to work.
It's like, the Totoros are back. Oh, my God, the Totoros are back. So the girls wake up in the morning and the tree is gone. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it was a dream. But they see that the acorns have sprouted a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they do go back out and do the tree dance again. It's not the tree dance, the Dondoko dance.
Yes. So a telegraph comes to the house, but nobody's there. The girls are with Granny picking vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to talk about gross. Like, look, I'm not a huge fan of certain vegetables, but they pick up like a cucumber, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the girls eat them. Yep. Like, they just eat it straight, and they're like, delicious. I'm like, I'm not a fan of cucumbers.
Oh, I love them.
Nope.
I could do that.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't care for the skin because sometimes it's a little bitter, but I think if you grow the right cucumber,
yeah,
it's so good.
Well, May picks a corn, like a stalk of corn.
An ear of corn.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, Granny says that they'll make you like healthy and strong, and she's like, do you think it'll make Mom healthy? And she's like, I bet it would. So she's like holding on to it for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I think Granny was like, I just know if your mom ate some of my vegetables, she'd be healed.
Mm-hmm.
Put your hands on her. She's healed.
I was going to say, don't put that in her head. Because she's going to be very disappointed when it doesn't. That's like, we watched The Batman with Paul Dano in it, and I showed Shelley a scene from There Will Be Blood where he tries to heal that lady's arthritis.
Yeah.
It's like, you have the arthritis in your hands, don't you? And he's like, get out of here, ghost.
Yes.
And it's just like, you are healed, the devil is gone. I'm like, not really.
I mean, the acting, superb.
He was amazing, yeah.
Freaking awesome, but the whole situation was just...
Yeah.
Hoaxy.
I feel like that's been in a movie that I've seen where, like, some guy says he's healing people and he's like, you can now see, and, like, the guy falls down or something, like a blind guy.
Yeah, there was this whole television thing. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a big thing back then.
Well, oh yeah, and it still is a huge thing.
Yeah.
I love the edits that people do where there was like a guy where he would like, put his hands on people and they would just fall over. Mm-hmm. Somebody edited it to where they'd put in like punching sounds or like Mortal Kombat was like people like falling over. And one of my favorite ones is in Borat where he goes into that church at the end or towards the end of the movie, and he says that he needs help, and the guy's like putting his hands on him and he's talking in tongues, the preacher.
Oh, no.
And he's like, blah, 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 and Borat's like, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, how you? I'm like, blah, 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 blah.
I'm trying to communicate. I don't know how.
My dad does not believe in that.
Um,
My grandmother's church, they would talk in tongues, and my dad's like, because they'd be like, my dad's like, I don't know about that.
It's a little much.
Yeah. Which I don't know, depending on where you are in the world, you may not have that. You may not have the religion, but here, that's kind of what they do. They say that they are channeling the spirit of the Lord, and they are.
But if it makes them happy, hey,
sure,
they can talk, do whatever they want, as long as they're not hurting anybody. You talk in tongues all you want.
We've seen some people download our episodes out of the U.S., so yes, for you people listening to this specifically,
You people.
What do I mean, you people? You people out of the U.S. or for the people out of the U.S.
Yeah.
Yes, that really happens.
We have at least 1 or 2 people in India. So
Yeah.
thanks, India.
Hey, we're talking to you right now if you're
Email
listening to
us.
this.
Say hi. I'd like to know who you are.
We track you.
I already know. No, I'm kidding. I don't.
So the girls, while they're doing the vegetables, they're talking and they say, Mom has finally gotten approval. She's going to be coming home.
Yes.
Just for a few days. They want her to get used to the home and stuff, and then she's got to go back.
This is when I thought it was a mental hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, it's going to be too overwhelming, too mentally exhausting for her. So we're just going to ease her back into momhood.
Yeah. So the telegraph person comes up and he gives the telegram to Greenie.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, the girls see it and they're like, oh, that's the hospital. And they open it up and the hospital's like, please call us immediately.
Right.
So they're freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, I would too.
And Greenie calls Kanta and she's like, they're like, we have to call him now. And she's like, we have to tell our dad. Like, we've got to get a hold of dad. And nobody has a phone, I guess, in this little village. So she's like, Kanta, take the girls, go to your uncle's house. He has a phone, and have them call their dad.
And it is an old ass phone. I mean, we're in the 50s, so it is like you pick it up and it goes directly to an operator.
Yeah, one of those.
So there's no dial tone. It's just got the earpiece and the mouthpiece.
Yes.
Which are in 2 separate spots.
Right.
If you know what a 50s phone looks like, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you take the little earpiece off and you hello.
Well, yeah.
But I wrote here because Satsuki and Kanta, they just take off. They're like booking it, and May runs after them.
Yes.
And they run, and May actually ends up falling down, and they run into a house, and May doesn't see where they're at, so she ends up getting lost. And I thought this was going to be a whole thing.
Me
I'm
too.
Like, oh, shit.
I'm like, oh, great. She's lost again.
But what's so funny is when they go into his uncle's house to make a phone call, the lady who lives there with his uncle, I'm assuming his aunt, she sees Satsuki and she's like, oh, what a nice girl. I don't know why they're all just like, wow, nice.
All of a sudden, just a nice girl.
But I guess this shows you how far out they are because the Satsuki is like, I'd like to make a long distance phone call, please.
Yeah.
I'm sure the uncle's like, who's going to fucking pay for this? That's 5 cents. You have 5 cents. I don't.
That's like $5,000 today.
But we see the dad now. This is where we see where he works. He's in a college, and yeah, she says the oncology department. And she's like, Dad, we got a letter from the hospital. They said you need to call them immediately. And he's like, well, I will. I'll call you right back. I'll call the hospital and I'll call you right back. And he hangs up. But I'm like, did you get the phone number? You didn't get the phone number.
Yeah, like, how are you going to call her back?
I don't know.
I guess it's just the operator and you ask for the name of the residence.
I guess, but he didn't even get that either.
I know. He just knows.
My daughter's at a new house right now. Can you connect me to that house? No, I don't know who it is. No, I don't know where it is.
One moment, sir.
Hello? Satsuki? So May is like walking. She loses him, but she turns around and starts walking back, and she sees Kanta and Satsuki coming out of the house.
I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, it's just, she's not lost, thank goodness. So May finds him, and Satsuki's like, Dad called the doctor. The doctor says Mom's not doing well and can't come home this weekend.
She's got a cold.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, well, a cold isn't like dying. But if she had tuberculosis, yes.
Back in the day,
Yes,
they probably
like
didn't
that.
know, you know? So May is so pissed off because she just wants her mom home so much that she starts yelling. And Satsuki, she's like, yells at her, and she's like, what do you want? Do you want Mom to come home and die?
Right.
So they run home, and it just shows them kind of lying in a depression in different rooms in the house.
Yeah. I thought it was funny because when Satsuki runs off, May is left with the neighbor boy. And he's all like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. What do I do with this little
Like,
kid? I don't like girls.
There's a huge fight. What do I do with this shit? So Granny comes home or comes by their house and like picks him up. She's like, "Hey, come on, let's not lay down in depression and let's get this house cleaned up a bit." And
I kind of love Granny.
yeah, she's a supportive character, very nice. And she said the doctor says that this is where it says the mom has a cold and she'll be home in a few days. And Satsuki is like, "I've heard all this before."
Yeah, this is already happened, So then she's like fearful that her mom's already dead, and
Yeah.
what are they gonna do? And your brain goes wild.
Yeah, she's like, Mom, what are we going to do if she dies? She could be dead already.
Mm-hmm. And then Granny's really nice and tries to comfort her and says, I'll stay with you, you're not alone, kind of thing. And I'm like, that's just the sweetest.
Well, this is where I wrote Totoro's going to heal the mom, isn't he? That's where I thought it was going.
Oh.
It has been so long since I've seen this movie, I forgot. But yeah, May is like holding onto her corn still. She just wants her mom to have it. And so May runs off into the forest. She gets frustrated and runs off.
Yep, I think. And then even at this point, I'm like, she's going to try to get that corn to her mom.
Yeah.
And
well, what's funny is I wrote here, Granny is like upset that May is gone because Satsuki can't find her. And I'm like, oh, they're going to hang Granny for losing this kid.
Oh, man, I know.
She's like, oh, no, it's 1950s. They burn people for this.
They're going to think I'm a witch.
Which I am. She kind of, well, no, she doesn't really, but she reminds me of the evil witch in Spirited Away.
Yeah. She's kind of like stumpy, like short and wide.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
She doesn't have the gigantic nose that it's not Baba Yaga, is it?
Babutsky, maybe?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, I don't know. Brewski?
Baba Yaga, I know, is the boogeyman, which is what they call John Wick. The Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
So Sasuke can't find May, and she's just running up and down. They think that she probably went to the hospital to walk that far to try to give the mom the corn.
A 4-year-old. Like,
yeah.
Oh, no.
So May runs across this farmer as she's running up and down the streets, and she's like, hey, did you see this little girl? And he's like, nope, I'm sorry, I didn't.
And then just drives off.
Well, she runs through his field. Well, I know what you're talking about. Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's coming up. But the farmer is like, no, I didn't. And she's like,
that's right. No, I'm jumping it.
oh, that's fine. And she's like, oh, okay. And so she runs through his field to get to the other side of like the street. And I'm like, well, that's kind of mean, running through his yard.
I don't think she cares. It's like, I just want to find my sister.
And then, yes, she runs in front of like an oncoming little motorcycle type thing. And they stop and they're freaked out. But she asks if they've seen May, and they say they haven't seen any little girl. And then, yes, they just take right off.
They're like, peace out.
See you, little girl. We're not giving you a ride.
Good luck.
And so Kanta now shows up, and he's on his bike, which his bike looks like 10 sizes too big for him.
Yeah, he's even kind of riding off to the side.
He's like pushing it, yeah.
Yeah, and like pedaling with one foot, like really pushing that one pedal just to get going. It was kind of weird and awkward.
It reminds me when I was a kid, I rode my dad's bike, which was way too big for me. And I fell off of it, and like, I think I still have a scar on my hand from it where I fell pretty hard.
Jeez.
It's like falling 10 feet.
Yeah.
So, but yes, Kanta shows up, and he's like, my dad and a bunch of people have been looking for May. They found a shoe. He's like,
a shoe?
Yeah.
Not a shoe.
Satsuki's like, oh my god, a shoe. So she runs and gets home, and Granny is doing like black magic in the background. She's like praying over this shoe.
She's like, please, devil magic, bring her back. I don't know.
I will give you Kanta if you bring this girl back.
I don't know.
This devil's like, I'm not taking that dirty boy.
Yeah. He's a fool.
Yeah, so Satsuki shows up, and Granny's like, is this her shoe? Is this her sandal? And she's like, oh, it's not.
Yes. I'm like, okay, good. At least she didn't drown. Jesus. That would have been very dark.
And it's so funny, too. One of the guys that's been looking for May, every word spreads among the people that it's not her sandal. And you hear one guy in the background go, it's not her sandal. Granny got carried away again.
No.
Like, carried away?
Again, how many kids have gone missing?
That's what I'm thinking, too.
How many, like, posters are up of missing children?
It's like this book that I have up here, American Gods. He moves to a town in the middle of the book where like kids get killed, and it's for this one god who's like gaining power.
Oh my gosh.
So they're like, how many kids are getting killed in this in this little area? So Satsuki sees the big tree again and runs towards it. She like runs off of Granny and goes towards it to ask for help.
Yes.
She runs to the tree and asks to be let in to see Totoro, and
she says it's an emergency.
I think she sees all the soot gremlins again on her way in, and she falls into the Totoro's little area here, and she's like begging him to help her. He gets like a strange look on his face, I wrote, where he's like,
Yeah.
And then he roars again, and then they all go to the top of he like flies to the top of the tree or whatnot and roars as loud as he can.
Right, which, last time when he did a big roar, the cat bus came, so guess what comes along?
The cat bus.
Yeah.
And the cat bus is like running by people. It's like this cat probably got, in Harley Quinn, the Riddler is running in that hamster cage and now he's super buff.
Yeah.
This cat's got to be super buff because it runs everywhere on its legs.
Well, and it's got like 10 legs.
Yeah.
It's got a ton of them.
And Satsuki's like, no one else can see this, can they? Because the bus is like running between people.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was the gust of wind she saw earlier. The cat bus running by her.
That's a good thought. When the cat bus gets there, the sign that we were talking about before switches to May's name in Japanese. At least that's what kind of it leads you to believe.
Thankfully, she points it out because, she's the sign changes and she goes, "Oh, May."
Oh, that's right. She does point it out.
I'm like, whew, thank goodness I can't read Japanese.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, this bus can take me where I want, where I can go to May." And so the hole on the side of this cat opens up.
Yeah.
And she gets in it.
It dilates every time it sees a human. It gets excited.
Like a butthole, it opens and closes. And so this cat's like running through the countryside. It climbs up a bunch of power lines and is like running. And
I'm like, dangerous, but okay.
Whatever
you gotta do.
Yeah, dangerous. They run and they find May. She's sitting on like the side of a road with her corn and
little girl in her ear of corn.
Yeah, and they make up and talk for a bit, and I don't know, did they say anything of substance here?
No.
I didn't write anything.
No, I didn't write anything either. The sign switches again.
Yeah. So the sign switches and they were like, "Oh shit, it says hospital. This thing can take us to the hospital."
Yay!
Yeah, so they see, like, it switches and the dad and the mom are talking in the hospital, and the mom is so upset. She's hoping that she didn't make the girls mad for not coming home.
Yeah,
and
she's like, I just have a fucking cold. Can I just go home?
And she coughs up blood.
I'm fine. Everything's fine.
And it cuts to the girls with the cat bus are sitting in a tree across the way.
Mm-hmm.
And they see her and they're like, "Oh, she looks happy. She looks okay."
Yeah.
And the mom's like, "I'm going to beat this. I'm going to get better and I'm going to see my girls and I'm going to come home."
All she wants to do is spoil them.
Yeah. And so the dad looks out at the window, or the mom's like, "Oh." And the dad's like, "What?" And she's like, "I could have swore I saw May and Satsuki sitting in a tree out there."
Mm-hmm.
And the dad's like, "Well, you know what? Maybe you did, because there's the corn is on the side of the window and it says for mom."
Yep. It has like for mom etched into the greenery around it.
Yeah. And the mom's like, "Oh, I'm going to get better and I'm going to beat this thing." And then May and Satsuki return home, and very oddly, that's the end of the movie.
That's it. that very weird. Very weird ending.
I didn't expect it to end so abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I tried to find some research into that, maybe why they wanted to end it that way. Maybe the girls know at this point at the end that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like they've seen the mom. The mom is happy even when they're not there. You know, they could see her with the dad and they're like, and the mom is renewed now to come home. So,
I mean, I guess they could have stretched it out where the mom ate the corn and magically better, and then at home. But I mean, it kind of leaves you with that impression that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it leaves you hanging, but you can use your imagination to kind of figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did read a theory where they said that like the girls are dead at the end of the movie.
Oh my god!
Let me pull it up here real
That's
quick.
dark. Like they both run off. Like Satsuki's trying to find May, and they both get lost and die in the forest.
I guess. The rumor is that Totoro is a god of death, and the people that can see him are people that are close to death.
Oh my gosh.
Or already dead.
Oh my gosh.
And they say that when they find the sandal that May has drowned, and when Satsuki sees the sandal, she cannot face the truth and lies that it is not hers.
Somebody just wanted to make this dark.
Yeah, and it says that Satsuki runs through the forest and talks to the god of death. And so she opens up the realm of death to talk to Totoro, the god of death, and she goes into the realm of the dead to find her sister. And who is the only one that notices the girls sitting in the tree but the mom?
Oh.
Because she's about to die. And some people pointed out that like as the girls are walking back at the end of the movie that they don't have shadows. So they're thinking like May is dead, their spirits now, whatever. The head of the Studio Ghibli, came out and was like, "Fuck you." They were like, "That's not true at all. That's a crazy theory, but no, that's not what we wanted."
That's somebody else's imagination going crazy.
They're like, "It's a very dark fucking theory you had there, but no, our kids movie is just that, a kids movie."
A kids movie, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. That's kind of interesting, though.
People always make their own thing. It's like at the last episode of Breaking Bad when Walt is sitting in that car when he's trying to get back home. Some people theorize that he dies of cancer in that car, and everything that happens after that in the episode is just his like life flashing before his eyes.
Oh, wow.
It's dumb. If it doesn't happen in the movie, I don't like people coming up and being like, well, you know what really happened? Behind the scenes, this.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's kind of cool to get
Yeah.
a different, look or take of it, but nah. It was a good movie. I liked it okay.
And we said this to each other, too, that if we watched it as kids, we probably would have liked it a lot more.
Absolutely, yeah, because, I mean, it is all about your imagination and spirits and, just fun stuff. But I guess I'm just too old for that now.
Yeah, we're kind of jaded. I mean, I did read online that when the movie came out in theaters, it bombed. And then when it started to be shown on TV, it exploded.
Yeah.
So it became very popular with kids.
Started out looking like they weren't going to make much from it,
Yeah.
but then it ended up being okay.
There's another horrific piece of trivia is that they didn't think this movie was going to make money, so when they released it, it was a double feature with a movie called Grave of the Fireflies, which is a fucking heartbreaking, horrific watch.
Aww.
It is such a sad, sad movie, so it's so funny where it's like, you have Totoro is this happy kids movie, and then this heartbreaking movie that's listed by people as like one of the saddest animated movies ever made.
I'm going to lift you up and then tear you down.
Yeah, I think so. So,
wow.
I liked it as well. Like I said, it's been a long time. Like when I worked at the theater and was younger, people talked about the Studio Ghibli movies, and I watched them, and it has been a really long time. But I liked it.
Good.
Again, some of the magic wasn't there for me this time.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, thanks, guys, for listening.
Yeah.
You can join us on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter. Email us at thefilmobsessedcouple@gmail.com.
Yes.
We would be enthralled if you would rate, review, and share us.
Yes.
Because we still, we're struggling getting the views out there, so we would appreciate your help.
Yeah, just sharing us or talking to your friends about us, just anything would help tremendously.
Yes.
So I messed up. I had previously said, before we did the Batman, I said on that episode, Pompeii, that was the last episode of Disaster Movie Month. But looking at the schedule, we have one more Monday in the month left.
Yeah, surprise.
So, yes, surprise. So we are going to do a movie. I was curious what it was, what we might do, but we're going to do The Happening.
Okay.
So it is...
Is it happening?
It is not.
No.
It is a movie with Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
And this mysterious virus are causing people to kill themselves.
No way.
And they have to run. It is awful, considered one of the worst movies ever made.
Okay.
So I think it'll be pretty funny. It's a disaster movie just because all these people are killing themselves.
Sure.
So when you find out why, you're going to be pissed.
Oh, great.
Everybody was.
Stay tuned.
The acting in the movie is awful. It'll make a fun movie to talk about.
Okay. Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah. So next week, we will come back and see you with The Happening.
Bye-bye.